These are the Kiwiears Cadenzas. They're a $35 IEM that you should know about. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about these very affordable but very awesome IEMs. Actually, on Amazon, there's a $3 off coupon. So they're coming in at $32. They have 211 5-star reviews, 4.5-star reviews, which is actually good considering that a new IEM comes out of China about every 3 seconds. So there's a lot of them. So to have one that actually has over 100 reviews, it's not too shabby. I legitimately just bounced one of these into a coffee mug. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. We have over 760 videos. We're doing an IEM video today, but we do turntables, DACs, home theater, and obviously headphone equipment. But you don't want to miss anything, so please subscribe. Turn on all the notifications, the bell notifications, the pots and pans notifications, and please like this video. Thank you for watching. The fine folks over at Linsol sent these in, and I was actually pretty excited. My enthusiasm for in-ear monitors has kind of waned a bit lately, but getting these in, listening to them, has kind of reignited my passion for in-ear monitors or all things personal audio. They come in a variety of colors. Mine are in blue. This is kind of a high polished blue, shimmery, not a consistent color. I think none of them are exactly the same. I kind of have a bit of a design here. The cable, since these are $35, they don't come with like the best cable, but it's an okay cable, just not as good as one that usually comes with $100 IEMs. You have a little keeper here that you can slide down to keep the IEMs close to one another. 90-degree 3.5 millimeter jack. Comes with a variety of ear tips, all silicone, so comes with these clear ones, these black ones, and then kind of the red on black ones, which I have lost most of those. Very plain packaging, which is nice because I don't like to see super expensive packaging on IEMs. Okay, the driver. Single 10 millimeter beryllium driver. It's very interesting to see an IEM at $35 have a single beryllium driver. I have seen other IEM companies or another IEM company charge upwards of $400 for a set of IEMs with a single beryllium driver. 35 is less than 400, more in line with the ethos of the Cheap Audio Man channel. These have the 2-pin design, so you just pull it off like that, and you'll see there's 2 pins here, and then you stick it in here. There is a right and a left marked on these inserts, so you don't want to put them in the wrong ones. The meat of the IEM should always face backwards. This is the left one, so it faces like that. Put it in the left one, left ear. And then you take the left insert and you put it in there. IEMs used to use a lot of MMCX connectors, but I haven't seen that lately. And then they go in just like that. So I listened to these 2 ways, one of which was on the $7 or $8 Apple Lightning to 3.5 millimeter dongle. It's a little DAC. It's not bit perfect. I think it maxes out at 2496 or something, but really, who cares? Actually, really good sounding DAC. Then I also used the Can RU7. This is a much more expensive DAC, and it's a ladder DAC or an R2R, resistor to resistor DAC. Very expensive, very fancy. Let's talk about how they sound. Okay, listening to the cadenzas through the Can RU7 hooked up to my Apple computer, listening to Highway to Hell. The mid bass, a little bit elevated, but that's okay because it doesn't cover up any of the mid-range clarity. And the hi-hat during that song is really crisp, almost has kind of the flavor of an aluminum dome or a titanium tweeter, which makes sense because beryllium is some type of fancy material. A little bit boosted in the bass, which I like, but not boosted enough to cover up any of the mids. Very good. Highway to Hell. All right, Wherever I May Roam by Metallica off the Black Album. Spatial cues are really good. So at the 14-second mark, it goes, which is way to the right, and it actually sounded like a multi-driver IEM. So a lot of times with those, if you have like a couple balanced armatures, one dynamic driver, and whatever else they have, sometimes I can hear spatial cues a little bit better. I would assume it's because of the different drivers. However, with these, I got a bit of that vibe when it threw the all the way to the right. There's a heavy snare drum at the beginning of that song. That part. A little bit of a veil over that percussion. The good thing about that is these are not fatiguing, especially with that initial attack on percussion. Little bit veiled though, so not the cleanest thing through, I would say, it's probably the 4K to 6K range. It's still very good. All right, Hurt by Johnny Cash. Initially, there's acoustic guitar in there. Acoustic guitar lacked a little bit of the finite detail I've heard on other IEMs. However, those other IEMs are generally pretty fatiguing pretty quickly, like the Critical KZ, I can't remember the exact model number. I love them, but they do get a little fatiguing pretty quick. Johnny Cash's voice, however, came in and was super clean, but lacked a little bit of baritone that I've heard on other IEMs and other speakers. So this IEM, I feel, may be just a little scooped right before his vocals come in. So maybe around the 400 hertz area, because I've heard his voice be a lot deeper. Still clean, and cleaner than the acoustic guitars, which tells me it's lower than the acoustic guitars. So there's a little veil here, I think, through the mid-range, and a little bit of veil through the upper treble, too. Okay, King of Pain, Alanis Morissette off the MTV Unplugged. It's a cover of a Police song, and she does a great job. That is recorded very sibilant. While I can hear the sibilant, it is not put on display, and it's not super sizzly. Her voice also lacks a tiny bit of detail. What this is all telling me is these IEMs are a little bit laid back on top. I'm not saying rolled off at all, because there's still detail in there. It's just not in your face. And I like that because these are pretty dynamic. I think there is a boost, and I think that boost is probably around the 100 hertz. I think there's a bit of a trough before we get into the mid-range. The entire mid-range around 1K probably is flat. Right before 1K is probably dipped a little bit, and then there's probably a dip going into 4K and then rising out maybe 7 to 8K. With sibilants being highly controlled and some of the percussion initial attacks being a bit veiled, that tells me 4,000 to 6,000, a little bit down. Final thoughts on these little IEMs are, I absolutely love them. For $35 or $33 with a coupon, I don't think you can do much better. If you are after like finite detail, extreme levels of clarity, then the Critical KZ, I can't remember what the model number is, probably the right one for you. For $35 here, you're getting a dynamic, well-controlled IEM with detail, a little bit of veiling though. And at $35 though, I think this is probably the most well-rounded IEM I've ever heard. If you can stand IEMs, these are a significant step up above like the KOS, KH50s or something like that, KLH something. KLH, KLH is gonna rock you. Remember that song? I don't remember what that was. C&C Music Factory? I can't remember. A great IEM. You can give it to your kids, stocking stuffers. You can throw it in your backpack and have something to use when you're on the road. I did use the RU7 DAC, and it was better, but it was a little bit too syrupy compared to the dongle DAC from Apple for about $8. That DAC, a lot more emphasis on the top end. The RU7 is a better DAC, much better DAC, but it doesn't give you that boosted high end that actually works really well with the Cadenzas. So that's good news, because for $45 or $43, you can have an external DAC for your iPhone, and you can have a very good sounding pair of IEMs that you can take with you everywhere, and if you break them, you don't have to worry about it because they were $35 or $33. Highly recommended. A little bit laid back, but still have detail, just don't have fatigue which is really what I look for when I'm buying an IEM. So if you want to support the channel, you can use the affiliate links in the description. If you click and buy, I do get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more, so it's a great way to support the channel. You can also sign up for Amazon Music, Tidal, or Roon. Links in the description. You can also use the thanks button too down at the bottom of the video. Buy me a cup of coffee, but don't feel compelled to buy me anything. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen to your new $35 IEM. That's actually really, really, really good. And fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.